you ever wondered what it would be like to be an organ scholar at Oxford, Cambridge, or another university? What is an organ scholar, and what do they do?
I'm Katharine Pardee, and I'm the Betts Fellow in Organ Studies at Oxford, where among other things I run programming for the organ scholars. I'll be speaking with some of them today and looking around some of the colleges, so I hope we'll be able to give you a sense of this world.
In Cambridge and Oxford, organ scholars are talented organ students appointed by the colleges to play the organ for chapel services and to direct the choir or to assist a director of music. Usually organ scholars are undergraduates, though occasionally opportunities for postgraduate students arise. Oxford and Cambridge each have about 25 colleges that offer organ scholarships. Most colleges aim to have 2 organ scholars on board at the same time, a junior and a senior. So there are about 50 organ scholars in each university. You don't need to be reading music as a subject to be an organ scholar. Organ scholars read a wide variety of subjects. The important thing to remember is that each college is very different. Some have only 1 service a week, and the organ scholars run the whole show. At the other end of the spectrum are colleges that have fully professional programs with services and rehearsals nearly every day, plus tours, broadcasts, and recordings. It's important to look at the college websites, talk to the directors of music or the chaplains in the colleges, and visit to find out what feels best. I asked some organ scholars how they chose their colleges.
I chose Hertford because the organ scholarship at Hertford is largely a directorship role as well. So in addition to playing organ for the services, you also got to run and conduct the choir and get involved with choosing music lists, planning concerts and tours. So I felt that there was a lot of good experiences to be had in addition to just playing the organ for services.
Right. So you don't have a music director. There's no music director at Hartford.
No, so you're really running the show, which was, for me, part of the appeal, and I think part of the appeal for a lot of people who apply to Hartford.
Yeah.
So how did you pick Worcester?
So I came from a comprehensive school, so I didn't really have a lot of people telling me about different colleges. Oh, maybe you should apply here, or I once went here. So my strategy was to come up with a spreadsheet of every single college I could apply to, and then consider them each on things like how nice their organ was, how many services they did a week, did they have a director of music, and so on and so on. And eventually I came up with Worcester College came out to me as my favourite. The other thing that really stood out to me about Worcester is the fact that I do get to work with boys, which is just another experience for me that a lot of other colleges didn't have, and something I wanted to be able to do. So.
I chose Christchurch because of the intensity and opportunities that it offers, because I want to be an organist, or at least a professional musician. So yeah, I mean, it's not disappointed in terms of the opportunities it's given me, the regularity of playing and the fast turnover of so much repertoire. Just boosts your skills so quickly. Also the teaching aspect, because I teach the choristers every morning, and that's a very useful skill to have, especially in the organ world, with conducting as well, to learn how to work with children, being very useful.
How good do you have to be at the organ to get an organ scholarship? And do you have to have choral conducting experience? Again, the answer varies depending on the college.
I've been playing the piano since I was maybe 8, and then picked up the organ when I was maybe 14. And I was playing just at a parish church that was congregational settings of Eucharist, so I had no experience with evensong and no experience with accompanying choirs. And I really just made the best I could out of that. So I was always trying to... I spent a long time listening to the Radio 3 Wednesday afternoon evensong, just so I could get to know what a Magnificat is and how the psalms work, and listen to different people from different cathedrals accompanying psalms. Go, I wonder if I can try and do that in my practice time. So I spent a long time doing that.
Did you have any experience in front of a choir?
I made my own experiences, so there was no school choir, but I got together some friends when I was in sixth form, and I put together a vocal octet, and we sung through sacred and secular music, just for me to be able to get some experience conducting, really.
Wow, to do that. Did you have any choral experience, for example?
I didn't, no. I'd been singing in my local church choir for quite a long time, so I was quite familiar with a lot of the suitable music for certain times of the year, but I'd never really gotten up in front of a choir, apart from just before coming up for organ trials, or my organ teacher thought it would be a good idea for me to have a little go with his church choir. Right. But yeah, no real choral experience to speak of, so it was a lot of learning on the job and learning from my senior and others around me as well.
Right. So how did you prepare for an organ scholarship if you didn't have choral experience in your school and so on?
So I had organ lessons since I was 13, and I had those quite regularly for the last couple of years prior to applying. And my organ teacher was fantastic and made sure I was really well prepared. He'd sent a few organists up to Oxford and Cambridge to be organ scholars before, so he knew what was required and knew how to help me prepare well. So yeah, he was a really, really fantastic teacher to have.
That's really important. So there's a parish church you really came up in?
Yeah, parish church all the way through.
Excellent,
so, yeah.
Excellent. So I'd actually only been playing organ for just over a year when I got my organ scholarship. I applied for deferred entry, so I had the intention of taking a gap year organ scholarship, so I guess they took that into account. I had just done grade 8 organ the summer before I applied for organ trials, but definitely I'm sure there were people better than me, but they definitely took into account the fact that I was going to spend a whole year just improving at organ on my gap year.
Right.
So what would you say your organ skills were when you came up? Were you pretty competent on the organ?
Pretty good, yeah. I was ARCO level when I arrived. The summer, yes, so it was the summer just before I arrived that I got it. It is important to have good keyboard skills because it saves you a lot of time. So transposition, sight reading, they're the main two. Score reading you will need to do a little bit of, but not as much as the main two, sight reading and transposition. So if you're good in that area and you have a decent sort of selection of pieces, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
I asked Robert Quinney, Director of Music at New College, what he expects from an organ scholar.
Well, the main thing, I think, for any organ scholar is that they should be keen to learn and really commit to their studies as an organist and in all the other things that they'll be doing while they're here or in another place that offers organ awards. Specifically here at New College, we have a choir that sings almost every day of the week and does other things outside university term like tours and recordings. So we're looking for somebody who will be able to participate in that at really quite an advanced level from the start, but also someone who shows the potential really to run with the training that they get here. Somebody who will look back after 3 or 4 years here and really feel that they've made some progress.
The organ trials, held in September of the year preceding entry, is the audition and interview process for an Oxbridge organ scholarship. The exact requirements differ slightly between Oxford and Cambridge, but both universities require you to play a piece or two, as well as undergo some keyboard tests. They're pretty high-pressure occasions.
So tell me about when you came up for your organ trial, Were you scared to death, or were you?
Yeah, I was terrified. It was horrible. But it was worth the pain, I think, ending up here. But it was very scary.
Right, I can imagine.
Did you feel petrified in the organ trials? Do you feel well prepared, or how did that all go?
It was a bit of a combination of both. So I did feel well prepared, I practiced really hard, and as I said, my teacher helped me to prepare really well. So I did feel well prepared, but I was also extremely nervous, not because people here weren't friendly, but just because I really wanted it and I'd worked really hard for it. And there's always that element of, unknown on the day. You're on an instrument you're not used to. It's a very high pressure environment. So yeah, it was definitely a combination of emotions on that day.
What's a day in the life of an organ scholar like? As you might imagine, it differs depending on the college.
So I like to do my practice in the morning. I thought it was a really nice way to start the day, and it always made sure that you had carved out time for your practice no matter what else happened in that day. In the morning also I'd like to take care of some of the administrative elements. As I say, at Hertford you are running the choir as well, which entails quite a lot of admin, so I'd like to do a bit of that in the morning as well. Then the day really would be, I guess, much similar to any other student doing academic work. Again, I might do a little bit of admin at lunch. Then towards the evening, prior to a rehearsal, I'd make sure I'd planned that rehearsal, doing so in collaboration with the other organ scholar, because we would usually share the conducting and playing. So we'd make sure that was planned. We'd go to rehearsal, and if it were a Sunday or a Thursday, there'd be a service to follow as well. So quite busy days on service days, but really, really good fun, and formal afterwards on a Sunday, which is always a really nice way to end the day.
Right.
So, day in the life at Worcester often begins quite early because our boys' rehearsals are, the choristers come from Christchurch Cathedral School. And so one of the first things we'll often do is head down to the school and rehearse them for maybe half an hour from 8 till 7:30, and that'll be the start of the day. Then, apart from that, we'll set about our usual day of degree work, lectures and so on. And then 4 services a week, we'll come back to the chapel at maybe 4:35 and start our rehearsal. And then that rehearsal will lead straight into the service, and that's 3 or 4 days a week we have that kind of schedule. And then the rest of the week, obviously, I'm free to practice the organ in the chapel when there's not a service going on, so I'll usually try and get an hour or 2 of practice every day, often touching on things for the service that evening. And then there's also the sort of music library work and emailing people, making sure they know what services they've got to be at, and making sure parents know when to pick up choristers and all these things. So,
yeah, if I were to advise a 15, 16-year-old, I'd suggest actually finding out as much information as possible about the organ awards that are available here and at Cambridge and elsewhere. There are lots of universities actually that have some kind of organ scholarship attached somewhere or other, and you can find that information on all of our websites, but there's also information available via the RCO and from courses that the Royal College of Organists puts on, also Oundle for Organists. There's loads of really good information there, and attending those courses introduces you to your peers, other people who are interested in it. And speaking personally, I'm back in the last century, I very well remember how useful it was to go on a course at Oundle, in fact, and learn a lot from my peers as well as from the tutors there.
So is there anything you might say to a young person who's thinking about maybe wants to be an organ scholar?
Go for it. I think the main key is surround yourself with choral music, meet people who are already organ scholars, ask them questions, email directors of music, see if you can come and visit and ask questions, have a look around the colleges. It's a very exciting lifestyle, and definitely worth pursuing if you like organ.